All right, ladies and gentlemen. So we got an article here from Bounding into Comics. Okay. This is very important. Get your popcorn ready. Get your popcorn. Let me see the popcorn in the chat. This one's very important, guys, because this proves that the conversation around Gamergate and the fact that they're trying to say, oh, Gamergate 2.0 is not real. It's a small fringe group of gamers. Nobody cares. All normal people are against this stuff, whatever. And, the whole narrative that they have around Gamergate 2.0 and how it's not a big deal and it doesn't matter. Well, apparently it's a big enough deal to talk about it on a government funded radio. On an actual government funded radio from Canada, ladies and gentlemen. So you guys who are in Canada, Radio Canada literally came out and said some nonsense about Kabrutus on the show. So look at this headline here. This headline reads: Government broadcaster Radio Canada accuses Sweet Baby Inc. detected scene curated group creator, that's a mouthful, Kabrutus, of leading a cyber harassment campaign. A cyber harassment campaign. So now it went from harassment campaign to cyber harassment campaign, because the story has to shift, right? It has to shift to a place where it's good for their narrative, right? Because they know nothing's actually happening in real life, so they can't claim harassment. So now what are they going to do? They're going to claim cyber harassment, right? So I think it's funny. I think it's funny because this is a government broadcaster, right, from Canada, a government broadcaster that's trying to talk about some random, in their words, right? This is their words, a random Brazilian guy, right? You're dedicating a show on a government broadcasted radio to some random Brazilian guy, some random gamer who is running a small fringe group. Now, granted, that small fringe group is 360,000 plus, I think, at this point, but still, this is the narrative you've been trying to push, that they are just a small fringe group, that they don't matter, right? That he's just a random Brazilian guy, and now you're forced to talk about it. You're forced to actually admit that this is happening. You're forced to actually admit that Gamergate 2.0 is a thing. So what do? They try to spin the narrative, right? They try to actually say that it's the same thing like Kotaku. They try to spin the narrative and say that Sweet Baby Inc. Detective started all this stuff. Not Sweet Baby Inc., but Kabrutus. Kabrutus started the harassment campaign. That's what they're trying to say. It says, according to the Canadian government-run broadcaster Radio Canada, the individual who kicked off the current round of video game industry discourse with his creation of the Sweet Baby Inc. Detective curated group Kabrutus can be best described not as an unhappy consumer concerned with the ongoing DEI destruction of one of his favorite entertainment mediums, but as the leader of a cyber harassment campaign. The French-speaking branch of the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation leveled his accusation towards the Brazilian video game player in an April 4th summary piece entitled Too Woke? A Montreal video game studio is a victim of harassment. Itself written with the intention of giving the outlet's reader a heavily slanted recap of the current Sweet Baby Inc. discourse. Now, they have to have it slanted, right? They have to give you a slanted outlook on what's happening, because let's be real, if they told you the truth, even the most simple-minded person would second guess, right? If you knew that Chris Kindred was the one that actively tried to get them canceled first, if you knew that Sweet Baby Inc. Detective was targeted by an employee of Sweet Baby before all of this went down, it would probably change a lot of people's perceptions over what's happening. Even Brianna Wu, I don't know if you guys are aware, but Brianna Wu, one of the first people in the original Gamergate, even they are starting to admit that certain things were misled in the first Gamergate. So even if somebody like them can change their mind with a little bit of information, what do you think the masses would do with a little bit of information? What do you think the mass of viewers would do if they had just a little bit more context, a little bit more information? Their narrative will fall apart. They wouldn't be able to do anything with it. It says that, and look at how they try to look at this. I want to make this very clear about what they do too. When they spin narratives, guys, I see your super chats. I'm going to cover them in a second. Look at what they do. When they spin narratives, they always, and I said this in the last stream with Neurotic, they always say certain buzzwords at the beginning. They say certain buzzwords at the beginning of whatever they're about to say, because they know their simplistic viewers are going to focus fire on those buzzwords. So what do? They say the small video game consultation studio. They love to say this. They purposefully say this. The small video game consultation studio. They say this because in your mind, while you're hearing the next bit of information that they are going to tell you, they want you to remember and keep in your mind that this is a small company, and you're going to equate small with a company that doesn't really have a lot of leverage or power or anything like that, or they can't do anything, right? There's no way that this small company can do so much of what gamers are saying. So that's why they use those words. They use the word small before they even start talking about Sweet Baby Inc. So small. But they don't want to admit to you that even though this is a small company, it doesn't matter. This small company is just one of many viruses in the overall host of the body known as mainstream gaming. They're just one of many viruses. So yeah, they could be a small company, but they can absolutely ruin gaming on a grand scale. But then they say Video Game Consultation Studio Sweet Baby Inc. is the target of a vast. You see how they do that? You see how they do that? They say the consultation studio is small, but the cyber harassment campaign is vast. You got to look at these words, ladies and gentlemen. They use these words for a reason. Including death threats, which they haven't proven, wrote the outlet in the opening to their piece, as personally translated by this article's author. Thousands of internet figures, including influential figures like Elon Musk, have accused the studio of propagating their woke agenda and policies of inclusion, diversity, and equity in the video games that they work on. From there, the outlet would proceed to present readers with a quote from Kabrutus himself, as initially given to Geeks and Gamers Alex Gerzo during a March 2024 interview, in which he explained his reason for creating the aforementioned Sweet Baby Inc. detected Steam curated group. I mean, listen, a curated group is just there to recommend or not recommend games. That's all it's for. A curated group is there to recommend or not recommend games. It is up to the person who's part of the group to decide whether or not they actually want to buy the game or not. It's their choice, right? It's not like if a game goes on a curated group that immediately makes it unpurchasable. They would make it seem that's the case, but that's not how it is. That's not how it is at all. If these developers think that if their game goes on the list and then it becomes unpurchasable to many players, that means that you admit that there is a problem that a lot of gamers do not want to have in their gaming. You admit it because there's nothing stopping those players from buying the game that's on the list if they so choose. So if you feel that way, then you inherently admit that there is a problem that you are advocating for in gaming. You have no confidence in your game that it's going to be able to survive a curator group and that people are not going to want to buy it. You have zero confidence because you know what you're doing is wrong. And then it says SBI forces political agendas and DEI into their games. Reads the part of the interview quoted by Radio Canada. I started noticing patterns in some games like ugly women and male characters being weakened to make female ones look stronger. I mean, where is he wrong? Where is he wrong? Kabrutus is not wrong in any of this. This is the reason why he's been skyrocketed to the top right now. Is because he's saying the quiet part out loud. He's saying the part that everybody's been saying for a long time. It just took someone making a Steam curated group before people listened. It's weird. It's weird, right? And then again, turning their attentions to the Steam curated group itself, Radio Canada next detailed to their readers 350,000. That's the number of subscribers to a list on the Steam platform named Sweet Baby Inc. Detected, which lists the video games which the studio and its members have worked on. And then to this end, the outlet quoted Sweet Baby Inc. co-founder David Bedard, who informed them that after this list creation, our inbox went from a few messages a day to hundreds. We have gotten thousands of emails from people who want us to disappear. Well, that's good. It's good. You should. You should. Like, I don't mean to say it as simple as that, but I mean, let's be real. You should. What you do for gaming is not beneficial to anybody. There's nothing you do for gaming that's going to help anybody. It's not going to help any game do better. None of that stuff. You actively do everything you can to make sure that this game or whatever game you work on is just a DEI riddled mess. That's all it is. There's no narrative consulting that you do that's actually beneficial to the game that I've ever seen. It's just not. And since you won't take credit for the bad stuff, I'm not going to let you take credit for the good stuff either, right? Because you have people trying to say, oh, this is the same company that worked on God of War Ragnarok. Okay, The same company that worked on God of War Ragnarok. So you're saying that they're proud and they're able to talk about the games that they worked on and what they actually did in the game as long as it's positive. But the moment it's a negative conversation, oh, now we can't have that. We don't do anything. We're just a small company. We don't do anything. Then the narrative changes. So if you want to be admired for the positive, then you also should be criticized for the negative. And if you can't handle that, then just go fuck off. That's basically it.